Hi folks, this is Alan Watt and we're cutting through the matrix just in a brief amount of time. It's so short a time really to explain how we're contaminated. But it's incremental and it's intergenerational. I've read the article before. They came out of Comintern Communist International from the 1930s. And Beria, who was the NKVD leader at the time, they made a speech and it was written down, published all across the West, and go into all the second-hand bookstores in New York, you'll find them there. And he basically said it used to take 70 years, that was a generation then, 70 years to create even one particular major shift in social behavior, with them at the top, of course. He says, now we have it down to a perfected level. We can actually upgrade people every 4 or 5 years. And he said it will be made shorter and shorter as time goes on because they were using all the techniques and so on of Pavlov and others that were working on these very problems, how to condition the perfect society. Well, you see, that was all done, and it was done perfectly. And the foundations in the West, I've mentioned it ad nauseum, that the Rees Commission went in to investigate why these big multi-trillionaire foundations all seem to be funding left-wing groups who wanted to destroy the Western way of life, and especially America and its constitution, and bringing this socialist-type system. Well, a socialist system, remember, is a totalitarian, authoritarian regime where you have a massive bureaucracy and experts that run everybody else's lives beneath them. And they were told that their job in the foundations was to fund all those groups and agitate and keep pushing. And it wasn't just in the streets, it was all through academia. They were pushing through academia because, you see, these big foundations had their own people placed in academia to make sure the generations were taught the new proper way of behaving. And very shortly, once they did that out, they brought in, they separated the teenager. They actually coined the term then, back then in the 50s, teenager didn't exist before, to separate a generation from the rest, gave them what they said was their own culture. It's amazing when you're young, you think everything is yours. The present generation think it's their internet, you know. And they always think in each generation, oh, this is our music. Nothing is designed by them, nothing at all. Everything is designed by very elderly people with lots of knowledge on how to manipulate you through various arts and sciences. But we've gone down the slippery slope. Most of the morals went out the window. As I say, even pedophilia today really doesn't cause the outrage it did before. And it really did cause outrage before. Every country had its way of dealing with pedophiles. And they were very quiet about it too. But today they're released back into community like a revolving door. Why? Well, you got into the particular lifestyles of your rulers, folks. You have to find out exactly what their little preferences happen to be as well, because every darn newspaper man out there knows who they are. And they know what they do. They've got all the photographs that I've never published to the general public. They daren't do it. Famous people, royal people, all the top people, the very respectable people, the ones at the very top that are managing your lives are perverts. Psychopathic perverts. And they're bringing in their system so as they've got an open hand to play with little Johnny or little Susie. And they're teaching them in school, well, if you haven't done this or you haven't done that with a male or a female, or both at the same time, then maybe something's wrong with you. What chance do the youngsters have today? You see, you've got no moral background and cultural background left to compare with. People live in their own time. And the old safeguards have been successfully and completely demolished. With this moral relativity comes sustainability. You see, it's all part of it too. They've got to sacrifice so many to save the rest and all this kind of stuff. Mind you, the same people who run your world will continue to run it, regardless of what regime they call it or system they call it, because they will always use their own money system. Whatever it happens to be, blips on the screen, whatever, they'll still run and own it. They will never give it up. They haven't for centuries. So really, you can't fight them by trying to get enough cash to do against them. It doesn't work that way. But they have all of academia on board. Darwinism, moral relativity, no moral absolutes whatsoever. And this is what they're drumming into the next bunch of even more useless sheep than the last bunch of useless sheep. It's a slippery slope. And of course, then they can come down and dictate everything to you from above. From housing inspections to whatever they want. Garbage bin inspections and so on. The most authoritarian regime the planet can ever have, because you see, these people are absolute, psychopathic, perverted control freaks. And ordinary folk can't understand that mindset, and therefore they prefer to shy away from even trying to understand that mindset. And that's to their doom. I'll be back with more of this after these messages. Hi folks, I'm Alan Watt and we're cutting through the matrix. Just bitching on a bit, as I say, about what's happening in society and how it's gotten to where it is. Because, as I say, I've mentioned the authors before, many authors who have gone through the whole agenda in their own textbooks. Well-known, famous people who work with the big think tanks and for what's called world socialism, which is a totally different meaning for those at the top from those at the bottom. And they outlined the whole agenda, including the shake-up and utter destruction of what used to be society, and mores and morals, and all that kind of stuff. And once you're into moral relativity, you're on a slippery slope, because anything goes. Anything goes, mind you, because they plan it to go that way. From getting automatically registered as a donor when you end up in a hospital, as we're pushing through in Canada a while back. I don't know if they got it through in Ontario hospitals. That's quite the thing. You go into a hospital, and you're not quite sure now if the doctor's going to try to help you live, or maybe waiting for you to die, maybe help you die, because there's more profit, isn't there, in transplanting one of your organs. Big bucks in organs. Do you think that doesn't go on? Do you really think that doesn't go on? You know, to understand an enemy, you must really go into the pits of hell to see them. Most folks shy away. They prefer to go into the positive. Let's be positive about this. Don't look at the negative. It'll just get you down. And that's why they pushed all this positive thinking nonsense from the same groups from the top, funded by the same foundations. Till it's like mantras today all through what they call themselves the New Age. And if you don't want to look at that train coming up behind you, well, you're going to get hit by it. And all the positive thinking in the world isn't going to change it. So you got to know your enemy. And you have to go into their mind to understand it. And I truly advise people, as I say, to go into videos like this expose I just mentioned, the Kinsey syndrome, and the one I'll try and find the link from last year, which is a kind of precursor of it, with the exposés on what the guy really was up to, how they used babies for intercourse, funded in scientific investigation, mind you, for science, and funded by the big foundations and various professors. And they timed everything that happened with stopwatches. When does the baby start screaming? And of course, Kinsey fudged all these reports and said, actually children they have multiple orgasms, so it's quite a natural thing for children to be engaged in sex from the minute they open their eyes, basically. No kidding. You know, the Kinsey system is still on the go today. Very important foundation, an organization. Still ongoing with their experiments. With the blessings of the Pentagon, of course, because after all, that's part of the whole structure that rules your lives. They gotta know how you tick to alter you. Unbelievable. And yet that's how they change society drastically and radically till we're in the mess we're in today. I'm always surprised by the only ones who really profit from the fallout of society with massive divorces and God knows what else and lawsuits are the lawyers. No matter what happens and it's brought along, the lawyers, because you see the legal system is part of the big boy system as well. You see there are signs and symptoms to the disease. Lots of them. And don't be fooled by terminology. Now, they're advertising abortions on television. Selling abortions on television. And this is from the Mail Online. It's first TV advert selling abortion, but pro-life groups demand a ban. 20th of May, 2010. The first abortion commercial on British television is to be broadcast next week in defiance of concerns from family groups and church leaders. Well, I hate to say it, you see, family groups, you see, that's an obsolete word in the old term of it. You've got Mark 4 or 5 family now, apparently. And church leaders. Well, the church leaders are out the picture now too. See, most of society is already corrupted. And strange thing, when you're corrupted, you start to enjoy your corruption. It's like any addiction, you see. You're all given your particular addictions. The masters that gave you all this stuff and the internet had been using the porno industry long, long before you were given the internet. For the same reasons. To bring it down. And get you obsessed with something. And people have become obsessed with this. There's so many people now are stuck watching porn of all ages. That's the surprising thing. And all youngsters naturally go right into it. Out of their curiosity. So here they are. First ads for selling abortion. And it says the Marie Stopes organisation, which receives an estimated £30 million a year from the National Health Service, right, to carry out abortions, is behind the controversial ad. So they use the taxpayers' money. That's a good social system, you see. It doesn't cost the elite anything. They make sure that the socialists at the bottom pay for it all. So they're paying them £30 million a year, and they put their ads on television, all courtesy of the taxpayer. Angry campaigners claimed that Marie Stopes is taking advantage of a loophole in advertising regulations. Where have they been? Yesterday they called on the Advertising Standards Authority. Well, again, that's one of those rubber tools they put out for you to pick up. You think they're there until you pick it up. And then you bounce that pick off the road and it bounces back up again. It's made of rubber, you see. Just like the censor boards. Just like the censor boards. That's what their job is to see, are they ready to push the envelope further? Are they ready to take it? Yep. So, they're trying to ban the commercial until there's a proper public debate on whether it should be allowed. They also warned Channel 4, which has agreed to broadcast the ad, that it should not take sides in the debate. So Channel 4 is a publicly funded broadcaster. Even big foundations in there again.